My name is Nathan Cole Harper. I'm 28 years old. Stop trying to make this about you. That's what my father said. Champagne in hand. In front of 43, guess the week I graduated valedictorian. Same week, same house, same backyard catered food, navy banner, white folding chairs. None of it was for me. It was for my sister, Victoria Harper, debate champion, future attorney, the pride of Cedar Hollow Lane. I stood there holding the official letter from my school heavy cream envelope, embossed seal, and watched my father wrap an arm around her shoulders while telling a neighbor about her law school acceptance rate. I waited for a pause in the laughter. There wasn't one. So I created one. I also graduated this week. I said, I'm giving the valedictorian speech Monday. That's when he looked at me. Controlled, not loud. Nathan, stop trying to make this about you. Tonight is your sister's night. 43 people heard it. No one said a word. I walked through the kitchen, out the front door, and sat in my car for 12 minutes. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I just held the letter in my hands until the gold seal smeared under my thumb. That was the last time I asked my family to see me. I left that house that night. I didn't come back for 10 years. And 10 years later, at UNU, the golden child called me from a payphone broke, disbarred, and thrown out. What she told me wasn't about favoritism. It was about theft. Before I take you back to how all of this started, do me a quick favor. If this story hits somewhere real for you, like it, subscribe. Not because you have to, only if you connect with it. And drop your city and local time in the comments. I always read them. I like knowing where these stories land. All right, let me take you back 10 years. Cedar Hollow Lane, Columbus, Ohio. The week my family quietly came apart, even if none of us admitted it yet. I grew up in a 4-bedroom colonial on Cedar Hollow Lane, just outside Columbus. The kind of neighborhood where lawns were trimmed on Saturdays and reputations were trimmed every Sunday at church. From the outside, we were solid. Richard Harper, regional vice president at a logistics firm. Gray suits, firm handshake. The kind of man who believed eye contact was dominance. Laura Harper, church board coordinator. Organized fundraisers. Delivered casseroles. Smiled like nothing in her life had ever been out of place. 2 kids. 1 tidy driveway. Clean windows. Predictable holidays. My sister, Victoria, was 2 years older. Sharp. Articulate. Captain of the debate team. She didn't just enter rooms. She took ownership of them. Teachers quoted her. Adults leaned in when she spoke. She was going to be a lawyer before she even knew what law meant. I was quieter. Straight A's. Math competitions. After-school job shelving books at the public library. I kept my head down and did the work. I thought consistency mattered. I thought being dependable counted. There's one memory I replay sometimes. I was 14. I'd made honor roll for the 6th straight semester. Not flashy, just steady. I printed the certificate at school and brought it home folded in my backpack. That night, I placed it on the refrigerator door, not front and center, just beside Victoria's framed debate trophy photo and a newspaper clipping about her regional championship. The next morning, it was gone. I found it on the kitchen counter, half covered by grocery coupons and a church bulletin. I asked my mom about it. She didn't look up from her coffee. The fridge was getting cluttered. Nate, Victoria's photo stayed. I didn't argue. I didn't push it back up there. But I understood something. That refrigerator wasn't decoration. It was a scoreboard. And I wasn't allowed to win. After that, I stopped putting things on display. Awards went into drawers. Certificates into folders. I stopped expecting acknowledgement. If something mattered, I kept it to myself. Victoria's victories were events. Mine were updates. Senior year. I set one goal. Valedictorian. Not for applause. For proof. 5 AP classes. Studying past midnight most nights. Cold coffee beside my desk. I worked 12 hours a week at the library to save money. Wrote scholarship essays between classes. Nobody monitored me. Nobody pushed me. I didn't need them to. When the counselor called me in that spring and said I had the highest GPA in the graduating class, I nodded once. 700 people in that auditorium. My name printed at the top of the program. I drove home with the official letter on the passenger seat. The envelope was heavy, cream-colored, embossed with the school seal. I placed it on the kitchen table, where it couldn't be missed. My father walked in first. He set the mail on top of it. My mother came in carrying groceries. "Mom," I said, "I got something today." "What is it?" she asked. already moving toward the refrigerator. I'm valedictorian. I'm giving the speech. She smiled politely. Brief, distant. That's nice. Honey, have you started writing it? Then she shut the fridge door. That was it. I stood there for a moment longer than I should have. Then I picked up the envelope and took it back to my room. Scoreboard was still rigged. I just didn't know yet how deep it went. I didn't tell anyone else at home after that. Not because I was ashamed. Because I was done explaining myself. If they wanted to know, they'd ask. They didn't. The only adult who reacted the way I expected was Mr. Daniel Hargrove, my AP history teacher. 64. Former Army. Steel gray hair. Pressed shirts. Voice that didn't rise unless it mattered. I handed him my draft speech after school one afternoon. He read it in silence. No small talk. No filler. When he finished, he circled one paragraph, tapped the page once, and looked at me. You don't need to impress them, he said. Just tell the truth. He wrote one line at the bottom in type block letters. I respect you. Remember that. Respect. Not pride. Not sentiment. Respect meant more. Graduation week started on a Tuesday. The certified letter arrived that morning, heavier envelope. Official seal stamped in gold. I left it on the kitchen counter, propped against the fruit bowl, where someone would have to move it to ignore it. Wednesday afternoon, Victoria called. She'd been accepted into a top-tier law school in Chicago. Within 45 minutes, my mother had called at least a dozen people. I could hear her pacing through the house. Voice bright. Rehearsed. Future attorney Harper. My father ordered a banner that night. Navy background. White letters. By Friday, a caterer was booked. Saturday evening, the backyard filled with folding chairs and rented cocktail tables. 43 guests. Aunts, uncles, neighbors, church friends, business associates from my father's firm. Champagne flutes lined the patio railing. A sheet cake sat on a silver stand with Victoria's name piped in careful white frosting. I came home from my shift at the library around 4. I could hear the music from the driveway. I sat in my car for a moment, cap and gown folded in the back seat. I told myself the same thing I'd told myself my entire life. Keep it steady. Don't make it bigger than it is. When I walked into the yard, conversations kept flowing. My father had one arm around Victoria, explaining her acceptance rate to a neighbor like he'd personally negotiated it. I moved through the party refilling ice buckets, shook hands, nodded when someone said, "Your sister must be so proud." No one asked about me, not once. Inside the kitchen, on the counter where I'd left it 4 days earlier, my valedictorian letter was still there, pinned beneath a stack of used paper plates. A ring of condensation had bled through the paper, smudging the gold seal. I picked it up. Something in me shifted. Not anger, clarity. Then I walked back outside. 43 guests. And I decided I was done being quiet. The backyard was loud. Laughter near the grill. Ice clinking in glasses. My father mid-story. One hand on Victoria's shoulder like she was a trophy he'd just polished. I walked toward my mother first. Kept my voice low. I have some news too. I'm valedictorian. Speech is on Monday. She glanced at the envelope in my hand. Quick smile. Right. That's nice. Nate. Then she turned back to refill someone's champagne. I stood there for maybe 10 seconds. Long enough to feel stupid. So, I tried once more. Louder. I also graduated this week. I'm giving the valedictorian address. The quiet didn't hit all at once. It spread. A ripple through the yard. A few heads turned. My aunt paused mid-bite. Someone near the patio lowered their drink. My father set his glass down. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. Nathan, he said evenly. Stop trying to make this about you. Tonight is your sister's night. 43 people heard it. No one stepped in. No one said, "He's earned it." Victoria gave a short, uncomfortable laugh and looked away. Conversation resumed like someone had flipped the switch back on. I stood there holding that envelope, condensation soaking through the paper. Then I nodded once. Not to them. To myself. I walked through the kitchen, past the banner, past the cake, out the front door, sat in my car in the driveway. 12 minutes. Engine off. Street quiet. I looked at the smudged gold seal under my thumb and made a decision. That was the last time I asked to be seen. I didn't slam the door. I didn't announce I was leaving. I just left. And I didn't come back for 10 years. Monday came anyway. I put on my cap and gown alone in my bedroom. Straightened the tie under the collar. Checked the mirror once. No speech rehearsal. I already had it memorized. The auditorium held 700 people. I know because I counted the rows while waiting backstage. Families streamed in mothers, clutching cameras. Fathers arguing over seat placement. Siblings climbing over chairs. Noise filled the room in waves. I scanned row 4. Seats 7 through 10. Reserved. Empty. All 4. I didn't feel surprise. I felt confirmation. When they called my name, I walked to the podium. The lights were warmer than I expected. The microphone hummed faintly. I didn't look at the empty seats again. I gave the speech I'd written at my desk past midnight for 6 weeks. About discipline. About building something in silence. About doing the work when no one is watching. I didn't mention family. I didn't need to. 700 people applauded. And then I saw him. Row 3. Center aisle. Hargrove stood up before anyone else did. Both hands raised. Clapping hard. Not polite applause. Intentional. After the ceremony, he found me near the exit. Didn't give a long speech. Just handed me a small white envelope with my name written in block letters. Inside was a card. One sentence. Your parents' blindness is not your failure. Go build your life. Tucked behind it was a business card. A scholarship coordinator at the University of Illinois. I shook his hand. Thank you. Yes, sir. He nodded once. Don't waste it. That afternoon, I drove home, packed 2 suitcases, and left Cedar Hollow Lane. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't leave a note. The house shrank in my rearview mirror. I didn't look back. Chicago wasn't glamorous. It was loud, honest. I moved into a shared apartment near campus. 2 roommates. I found on a bulletin board and a mattress on the floor for the first month. I studied data science and risk analytics because numbers don't lie unless someone forces them to. I worked part-time at a cybersecurity compliance firm downtown. Entry level. Data cleanup. Log reviews. Spreadsheet audits no one else wanted. I didn't mind. Work made sense. People didn't. Sophomore year. I applied for my first solo apartment. 1 bedroom. Nothing impressive. Just quiet. I filled out the paperwork, attached my pay stubs, and waited. 3 days later, the property manager called. Your application's been declined. Credit irregularities. I stood in the hallway outside a lecture hall. Phone pressed to my ear. I don't have credit cards. I said, Sir, the report shows multiple open lines. High utilization. It didn't make sense. I told myself it was a clerical error. Common last name. Data mix-up. I was 20. Broke. Focused on fun. I didn't chase it. I found a cheaper place that didn't run a check. That was the first mistake. Every few months, my mother called. Same tone every time. Injured. Nathan, we don't know what we did wrong. Your father hasn't been sleeping. We just want our son back. I didn't argue. I didn't go home. I kept the calls short. 5 minutes. 7 at most. Pain stayed internal. Control stayed external. I graduated with honors. 3 job offers before commencement. I chose the cybersecurity firm I'd interned at. Junior risk analyst. Downtown office. Glass building. Clean desks. Measured conversations. Within 2 years, I was promoted. Within 4, I was leading compliance audits for regional clients' banks, healthcare networks, mid-sized corporations terrified of data breaches. My director, Thomas Whitaker, former federal investigator turned corporate strategist, called me into his office one afternoon. You don't panic under pressure, he said. That's rare. He didn't praise often. That was enough. By 26, I had my own apartment, reliable car, emergency fund, retirement account growing quietly. On paper, it looked stable, but every Christmas, I sat alone. No decorations, no tree, just a 6-pack on the counter. Laptop open, snow pressing against the windows of my high-rise. I'd think about Cedar Hollow Lane, not with longing, more like checking an old bruise. Does it still hurt? A little. I never called Victoria, not once in 10 years. In my head, she was frozen in that backyard short laugh, eyes sliding away, choosing silence. I built a life without them. I told myself that was strength, and maybe it was. But there's a difference between independence and isolation. I didn't understand that difference until a phone rang at 1. In February, unknown number, area code, Shasa Suta Paisprezecha. I almost let it go to voicemail. I didn't. Hello. Breathing. Uneven. Then a voice I hadn't heard in a decade. Nathan, it's Victoria. Please don't hang up. And just like that, 10 years collapsed into 1 second. I didn't say her name back. I walked to the window instead. Chicago was buried in snow. Streetlights cutting through white static. Where are you? I asked. Greyhound Station. Downtown Columbus. It was one. A pause. Wind through a receiver. They kicked me out. That didn't compute. Victoria was the banner. The future attorney. The one my father introduced with credentials before her name. Kicked you out, I repeated. 3 months ago. I leaned my forehead against the cold glass. What happened? She didn't answer directly. She spoke in fragments. Her law license had been suspended 6 months earlier. An ethics investigation. Mishandled client trust funds. Not stolen, mismanaged. But enough. The Bar Association moved fast. 8 weeks later, she was disbarred. I was working 90-hour weeks. She said. Her voice was flat now. Drained. I was trying to prove something. To who, I asked. Silence. You already know. Our father found out before she received the official notice. Someone from church had connections on the state review board. He called me and said I humiliated the family. She said. That sounded familiar. And Mom, she cried. Of course she did. Victoria moved back into the house on Cedar Hollow Lane. Temporary, she thought. 2 weeks later, my father told her she needed to leave. People are talking. He'd said, we told the church you're taking time abroad. I exhaled slowly. They loved me as long as I was useful, she said. The sentence didn't sound dramatic. It sounded clinical. The second I wasn't. I became you. That landed. I didn't respond. Why are you at a bus station? I asked instead. I don't have money for a hotel. I've been applying everywhere. No one wants a disbarred attorney. I found a payphone because my cell's about to shut off. I checked the clock again. Stay where you are. I said, Nathan, stay there. I grabbed my coat. She kept talking while I pulled on boots. Her voice was shaking now, but she forced it steady. There's something else. The night Dad told me to leave. I went into his office. We were never allowed in that room as kids. I was looking for my birth certificate. Instead, she found a manila folder in the back of the bottom drawer, behind old tax returns. Emails, she said, printed, between Mom and Dad, going back over a decade. My grip tightened on the doorknob. About what? About us. She read fragments from memory. If they compare notes, we lose control. Tell Nathan she's too busy this year. Tell Victoria he didn't want to come home. Year after year. Holiday after holiday. 2 separate narratives. 2 separate lies. Engineered distance. They made me think you resented me, she said. They made you think I looked down on you. I stepped into the hallway, locked my apartment door. Snow hit my face hard. They kept us apart on purpose, she whispered. I started the car. Anything else in the folder? I asked. Her voice shifted, smaller. The way she said it made my chest tighten. It has to do with money. I pulled into the street. Explain. There were copies of financial documents, credit applications, personal lines. How many? The number sat heavy. 3 under your name, she said. 2 under mine. My pulse slowed instead of racing. Opened when we turned 18. Signed. Forged. Dad wrote on one email. She continued. Open another line. Nathan never checks his statements. The snow thickened. I kept driving. How much? I asked. She inhaled. About 142,000 total. I didn't speak for a full 10 seconds. Then I said, do you have the papers? I photographed everything. I took the originals. Nathan, I didn't know. I swear. I believed her. That surprised me. Stay at the station. I said, I'm getting on a flight. What? Stay there. This wasn't about favoritism anymore. This wasn't about being overlooked. This was identity theft. Federal. And they had no idea we were finally comparing notes. I landed in Columbus at 9. No sleep. No check bag. Just a carry-on and a decision already made somewhere over Indiana. Victoria was sitting exactly where she said she would be. Plastic chair. Small suitcase. Dark circles under her eyes. We didn't hug. I nodded once. Let's go. At my hotel near the airport. We spread everything out on the desk. 5 documents. 3 credit cards. And 1 personal line under my name. 2 under hers. All opened within 6 months of our 18th birthdays. Billing address. Cedar Hollow Lane. Contact phone number. My mother's cell. Employer listed for me. Part-time warehouse worker. Income inflated. Signature forged. The handwriting wasn't even close to mine. I flipped through the statements. Tuition payments. A new SUV. Kitchen renovation. Roof replacement. And 1 line item from 10 years ago that stopped me cold. Catering services, $6,380. Event supplies, $1,000. $120. Custom banner print, $248. The backyard party, 43 guests. Paid for with a card in my name. I felt something shift again. Not rage. Clarity. That's why your apartment got declined. Victoria said quietly. I remembered the hallway call sophomore year. Credit irregularities. I told myself it was a system error. It wasn't. I opened my laptop, pulled my full credit report from all 3 bureaus. 4 active accounts I'd never authorized. Total balance under my social security number. 84,427元. Interest compounding for 10 years. Victoria Ranners. 58,900元. Total combined. 149,317元. I closed the laptop slowly. They didn't just keep us apart, she said. They used us. I nodded. I called someone I trusted. Ethan Mercer, federal compliance attorney. We'd worked on a client case 2 years earlier involving internal fraud. I knew he handled identity theft litigation. He picked up on the 3rd ring. This better be good. Harper. It's not. I said. I need advice. I laid out the facts. Forgery. Unauthorized credit lines. 10-year timeline. Parent perpetrators. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, there was a pause. That's federal. He said finally. Identity theft under 18U. Section 1028. Each application is a separate count. Add fraud and wire fraud depending on submission method. Victoria stared at the carpet. What do we need to do? I asked. You want the debt off your names. Then you file FTC identity theft affidavit. Police report. You name them. Victoria's jaw tightened. There are parents. Ethan didn't soften his voice. And they committed federal crimes. Silence in the hotel room. I stared at the documents again. 10 years of interest. 10 years of manipulation. 10 years of holidays spent apart because someone didn't want us comparing notes. If we file? Victoria said carefully. What happens? Investigation. Financial subpoenas. They'll know immediately. And if the evidence holds, they'll be facing charges. I leaned back in the chair. Pain is internal. Control is external. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt focused. Send the forms. I said. Harper. Ethan added. Tone shifting slightly. Once you file, there's no quiet resolution. This won't stay private. It never was private. I said. We just didn't know. After I hung up, Victoria spoke. You're really doing this. For the money. I looked at her. For the name. She swallowed. I slid one affidavit across the desk to her. One to me. We read every line. Date of discovery. Description of fraudulent activity. Known suspects. My hand didn't shake when I signed. Not revenge. Reclamation. Victoria hesitated longer. Then she signed too. 14 years earlier. We were 2 kids at the same dinner table being quietly divided. Now we were 2 adults at the same desk comparing evidence. I scanned the documents and sent them to Ethan. He responded within minutes. Received. I'll initiate formal filing. I closed the laptop. Victoria exhaled slowly. What if Dad goes to prison? She asked. I stood up. That decision was made when he forged the first signature. She nodded, but her eyes were distant. I understood. This wasn't just about debt. It was about rewriting a story we'd both been living inside. And our parents had no idea the folder they tried to hide was about to be entered into federal record. We filed on a Tuesday. By Thursday, my father knew. I didn't call him. He called Victoria first. She had her phone on speaker when he reached her. Why are you doing this? He demanded. No greeting. No pretense. You're letting him manipulate you. Not your brother. Victoria didn't respond. You've always been jealous of your sister. Nathan. He continued. Voice tightening. You couldn't stand that she was the successful one. I took the phone. Don't call her again. I said. A pause. You think you're smarter than me now, he shot back. You think because you live in Chicago and crunch numbers, you understand how families work. This isn't about family. I said. It's about fraud. He exhaled sharply. Your mother hasn't slept in days. That line was predictable. She's worried sick. People are asking questions at church. Do you have any idea what you're doing to us? I didn't raise my voice. I'm correcting my credit report. He hung up. Sunday came. Victoria still had friends who attended the same church on Cedar Hollow Lane. One of them texted her that evening. Your dad spoke during fellowship. Spoke. Of course he did. Later that night, Mr. Hargrove called me. He didn't waste time. Your father stood up in front of about 30 people. He said you've been manipulating your sister. said you've always resented her success, claimed you're using her breakdown to isolate her from the family. I stared at the city lights outside my hotel window. And my mother, I asked. She cried. He said flatly, very convincingly. I could picture it. My father steady, measured, wounded patriarch. My mother trembling beside him, tissue in hand. 30 witnesses. Different number. Same performance. 43 in the backyard. 30 in the fellowship hall. Same script. Did anyone push back, I asked. Not publicly, he said, but the room didn't react the way he expected. Within an hour, my phone started lighting up. Unknown numbers. Old contacts. One message read, "How could you do this to your parents?" Another, "Your mother is a saint. Shame on you." I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself online. I didn't post a statement. Control is external. Emotion is not a strategy. Victoria looked at me from across the hotel room. They're rewriting it already, she said. They've been rewriting it for years. I replied. That night, I sent Ethan a brief email. Community narrative escalating. Advise next steps. He responded 5 minutes later. Do not engage publicly. Let the legal process speak. That was the plan. But what my parents didn't understand was this. Image only holds if no one checks the records. And for the first time in 28 years, someone was. The investigation didn't explode. It spread. Quietly, Milwaukee police opened a file. Subpoenas were issued to the credit card companies. Application IP logs were requested. Phone records tied to my mother's number were pulled. Ethan kept me updated in short emails. Progressing. Records match billing address. Signatures under review. No drama. Just documentation. At church, something shifted. Hargrove called again, the following Sunday. They sat in the front row. He said, like always. And I asked. No one sat beside them. I didn't speak. The sermon was about stewardship. He continued. About trust within families. Reverend Collins didn't mention names. He didn't have to. Word travels differently in small communities. Not through announcements. Through distance. A week later, I got a call I didn't expect. Aunt Marlene. I hadn't heard her voice in 10 years. Nathan, she said quietly. I owe you something. What is it? I heard your father once. Years ago. He was in the kitchen with your mother. He said, open another line. Nathan never checks. The sentence landed exactly where it needed to. You're sure? I asked. I didn't understand it at the time. I do now. Would you be willing to tell an investigator that? She didn't hesitate. Another crack. By the third week, Victoria's old friend from church texted again. People are asking questions now. Not attacking. Asking. Howard and Jean Dempsey, longtime family friends, had approached my father in the parking lot after service. Is it true? Howard asked him directly. No denial. My family's business is private. That wasn't enough anymore. Reputation isn't destroyed in a moment. It erodes. One silence at a time. One unanswered question. One friend who stops calling. My parents had built their lives on control. But control depends on narrative. And the narrative was slipping. Not because I exposed them publicly. Because facts were being reviewed by people who didn't care about image. And facts don't attend church. They attend court. He called me on a Wednesday night. No block number. No hesitation. His name on my screen for the first time in 10 years. I let it ring twice. Then I answered. Nathan. His voice was different. Smaller. The edge was gone. You need to withdraw the complaint. I stayed quiet. I opened those accounts because I had to. He said. Victoria's tuition wasn't going to pay itself. The house needed repairs. I was protecting this family. You forged my signature. I said. I was going to fix it. You didn't. His breathing grew heavier. Do you want to see your father go to prison? He asked. Is that what you want? There it was. The pivot to guilt. I want my name back. I said. Silence on the line. I'll pay it. He said quickly. Every dollar. Just pull the report. We can handle this privately. You handled it privately for 10 years. I replied. That's the problem. Another pause. Then something I didn't expect. His voice cracked. Nate, I'm sorry. Not dramatic. Not theatrical. Just tired. I know I was wrong. I know it. But don't let them take me away. I stood in my apartment kitchen. City lights reflecting off the window. I didn't feel victorious. I felt the weight of it. You're not going to prison because of me. I said evenly. You walked yourself there the day you signed my name. He didn't respond. I ended the call. My hands were steady. My chest wasn't. But the decision had already been made weeks ago, and I wasn't reversing it. 3 weeks after that call, Ethan phoned me during a client meeting break. "They've retained counsel," he said. "Their attorney reached out this morning." I stepped into the hallway. "What are they offering?" "Full acknowledgement of the fraudulent accounts. Restitution of all outstanding balances. 147,000, including accrued interest. Structured repayment using the equity from the house. In exchange, they're requesting support for a plea agreement instead of pushing for maximum prosecution." "What does the plea look like?" I asked. "Guilty to identity theft and fraud. 3 years supervised probation. Financial monitoring. No prison time. Assuming compliance. No prison." I looked out through the glass wall of the office. Traffic moving below. People crossing streets. Life continuing. "What's your recommendation?" I asked. "You filed to reclaim your credit and clear your record." Ethan said, "This accomplishes that. Federal prison would be punitive. This is corrective. I didn't need long. Accept it." Victoria agreed. The hearing was held in a federal courtroom in Columbus. No cameras. No audience. Just a judge, 2 attorneys, and 2 parents who had spent 25 years curating perfection. I wasn't there. Neither was Victoria. We didn't need to watch. The plea was entered. Guilty. Restitution ordered. 3 years supervised probation. Mandatory financial transparency. Within 60 days, all 5 fraudulent accounts were removed from our credit reports. My score jumped 210 points in under 6 months. For the first time in my adult life, my financial identity reflected reality. No hidden balances. No shadow debt. I called the property management company that had denied my apartment application years earlier. "I just wanted to inform you," I said calmly, "that the credit issue tied to my record was identity theft. It's been legally resolved." There was a pause. "I'm sorry that happened to you." Say, I didn't need sympathy. I needed correction. I didn't file to destroy them. I filed to reclaim what was mine. And that was enough. Victoria stayed in Chicago with me for 3 months. 2 adults. 1 bedroom. 10 years of silence sitting between us, like a third person in the room. We didn't talk about the case much after the plea. That part was procedural. Paperwork. Bank transfers. Court deadlines. What we talked about was harder. One night in March, we were eating takeout on the couch. No TV. Just the hum of the heater. I set my fork down. "Why did you believe him?" I asked. She didn't pretend she didn't know what I meant. "The party," she said quietly, "and everything after." She leaned back against the cushions and stared at the ceiling. "Because he told me you resented me," she said. "For years. He said you thought I got everything handed to me. That you were waiting for me to fail." I didn't interrupt. "He said you were distant because you were bitter. And I didn't want to think he was lying. So you picked the version that hurt less." I said. She nodded. Silence settled between us. Not hostile, just honest. "I should have said something that night," she added. "When he told you to stop making it about you, you didn't." I said. "I know. I let that sit. I'm not asking you to rewrite it." I continued. "I just need the truth now." "You have it," she said. And for the first time in my life, I believed her. We both started therapy. Separate offices, separate therapists. She unpacked the pressure of being the golden child, the constant performance. The weight of carrying our father's image like a shield. I unpacked the invisibility. The way silence becomes a habit. The way you convince yourself you don't need recognition until you realize you were just protecting yourself from disappointment. Some nights we argued. About small things. Dishes. Noise. Space. But arguments are different from avoidance. Arguments mean you're staying in the room. By April, she found a job with a nonprofit legal aid clinic. Not practicing law. Administrative and outreach work. The pay was modest. She didn't complain. For the first time, she said one evening while tying her shoes, "I'm working because I want to. Not because Dad needs to introduce me with a title." That mattered. In May, she moved into her own apartment, 15 minutes away. We started having dinner every Thursday. No obligation. No performance. Just routine. Healing isn't dramatic. It's repetition. Showing up. Choosing to believe the version of each other that isn't shaped by someone else's narrative. 10 years ago, we stood in the same backyard and said nothing. Now we sat at the same table and said everything. Not perfectly, but honestly, and that was enough to start. The National Risk and Compliance Award ceremony was held at the Langford Hotel in downtown Chicago. 200 professionals. Dark suits. White tablecloths. Polished glass. I wore a charcoal suit I'd bought the week before. Nothing flashy. Clean lines. Sharp fit. I arrived alone. Checked in at the registration table. Took my seat near the front. Row 3. Center aisle. I didn't plan that. It just happened. When I looked over my shoulder, I saw two faces I didn't expect. Victoria. And beside her, Mr. Daniel Hargrove. He'd flown in that morning. Budget airline. Carried a single overnight bag. Same posture. Same steady gaze. 10 years earlier. He stood in row 3 of my graduation when 4 reserved seats in row 4 were empty. Now he was here again. Different city. Same position. My name was called at 8. I walked to the podium. The lights were warm. Applause steady. Not explosive. Earned. I didn't unfold notes. I kept it short. 10 years ago, I said. Someone told me I was trying to make something about me. A few quiet laughs from the audience. I spent a long time proving things in silence. Tonight isn't about proving anything. It's about showing up, doing the work, and letting the results speak. I paused. I didn't beg for this. I built it. Applause again, stronger this time. I looked at row 3. Victoria was crying. Not broken, not collapsing, just steady tears. Hargrove stood first, both hands raised, clapping hard, the same way he did in that auditorium a decade ago. After the ceremony, he found me near the coat check. He shook my hand once. Still respect you, he said. That meant more than any trophy. This time, I didn't have empty seats behind me, and I didn't need to check who was missing. I already knew who was there. 6 months after the ceremony, a letter arrived, handwritten, postmarked Columbus, Ohio. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Tight, slanted, controlled. The same script he used on insurance forms when I was a kid. I didn't open it right away. I set it on the kitchen counter, looked at it for a full minute. Then I opened it. 2 pages. Blue ink. He didn't start with an apology. He started with history. Growing up in a 2-bedroom house with 5 people. Wearing secondhand shoes. Dropping out of college because tuition ran out. Filing for bankruptcy at 30 and feeling like the entire town knew. I thought if this family looked perfect, Tay, he wrote, then maybe we would be. He wrote about fear, of being irrelevant, of being seen as small, of people whispering. I needed one child to be exceptional. He wrote. It made me feel like I hadn't failed. That line sat heavy. Then, all halfway down the second page, he wrote what I'd been waiting to see. I was wrong about you. Nathan, I should have seen you. I see you now. No request for forgiveness. No demand. Just that sentence. I read it twice. Then I folded the pages carefully, slid them back into the envelope, and placed it in the top drawer of my nightstand. I didn't write back. I didn't tear it up. I let it exist. He sees me now, but I no longer need him to. That's the difference 10 years makes. Not closure. Clarity. The door isn't locked, but it isn't open either. I'm 28 now. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment overlooking the river. In the fall, the trees turn copper. In the spring, the light hits the glass buildings across from mine and makes everything look clean again. My credit score is higher than it's ever been. I'm saving for a place of my own. Deed in one name. Victoria lives 15 minutes away. We have dinner every Thursday. Sometimes we cook. Sometimes we order Thai and sit on the floor with the windows open. We don't pretend the past didn't happen. We just don't live inside it anymore. My father calls her once a month. 15 minutes. She sets a timer. When it goes off, she ends the call. I don't call. I'm not angry. I'm clear. The letter he wrote sits in my nightstand drawer. I haven't answered it. I might one day. I might not. A boundary isn't a wall. It's a line, and I've learned to draw mine without explaining it. If there's anything this taught me, it's this. If someone only loves you when you're useful, that's not love. That's a contract. And you are allowed to walk away from a contract you never signed. Second, setting a boundary is not betrayal. It's not cruelty. It's not revenge. It's ownership. You deciding where you end and someone else begins. I spent 18 years without boundaries. I spent 10 years building them. Worth it. Third, if you accomplish something and no one celebrates it, celebrate it yourself. Buy the cake. Open the bottle. Hang the certificate on your own wall. When I was 14, my honor roll certificate disappeared from the refrigerator. So, last year, I taped my award nomination letter to mine, front and center. No one took it down. And finally, if someone tells you to stop making it about you when you're sharing something you earned, understand something. The problem isn't that you're asking for too much. The problem is that they were offering too little. I started this story as an 18-year-old kid sitting in a parked car, holding a smudged envelope while 43 people laughed behind me. I'm not that kid anymore. I don't beg to be seen. I don't fight to be heard. I build, and I let the results speak. If you're the quiet one in your family, the dependable one, the overlooked one, I see you. You don't need permission to protect your name. You don't need approval to be proud of your work. And you don't need anyone's applause to know your worth. The refrigerator scoreboard was rigged, so I built my own. And this time, I decide what stays on it. This story was created by the Boundaries and Bloodlines team for entertainment purposes only, while it explores themes of family conflict, identity theft, and legal consequences. It is a fictional narrative. It is not legal advice, financial advice, or psychological guidance. Do not attempt to replicate any actions described in this story. If you are experiencing similar issues, consult a qualified professional.